Okay, so for this last session, my last wish, is that I hope you feel energized rather than tired out. I feel very energized. And why is that? Because I think in many ways this last session is the most important session. For 2 days in this beautiful and sheltered and nurturing environment, we've been reflecting about these very important issues. Now it's time to think, so what? How will we take action? How will we commit ourselves to the next steps? And who better than our next speakers to challenge us and to inspire us and to send us off to what is going to be our life after this. We have 3 exceptional speakers who themselves, as individual or as individual in the institution they represent, have, how shall I say, ride the wave of disruption and shape the debate in very important ways. So please join me in an energetic way to welcome our last panel and our panelists led by Dina Gardner.
Well, for those of you who are still here and who were here at 8:30 this morning, you get a gold star plus extra champagne at the mairie because that is a long day. But thank you, and we will try not to disappoint. We have an incredible panel here, and we're going to try and leave you on a positive note because we have just some incredible leaders here. And for those of you who don't know Cecile Richard, she's the president of the Planned Parenthood Federation in the United States, sort of holding the fort since January 20th, and actually before, on reproductive health for women and reproductive rights. And so I will start with her because she is representing the preeminent civil society organization. Then we have Barbara Laverneau, who is the operations executive vice president for L'Oréal, another leading company touching so many women, who is going to represent the private sector. So good luck on that, because it's very important. We've heard some great representatives, and we're very excited to have L'Oréal. And last but not least, Bertrand Piccard, who will really make us dream about really what it is in terms of engaging for impact and daring when everyone said it could not be possible. So without further ado, Cecile, one of the things we're trying to look at with the silver lining at what is happening in the United States, which is setting women back quite a long way. We are not going to get into it too much, but I just wanted to say, for me, the Women's March, it all started at the Women's March in terms of galvanizing, engaging for impact. This is what happened on the 21st of January. What does it mean to an organization like yours, which has been battling on all fronts? What does this mean? Give us some silver lining in terms of the hope of what it means also for the younger generation, the women in the country who were devastated by the election.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. And I would say, as someone who's been marching and organizing my entire life, the Women's March was probably the most exciting moment of my entire life. And I don't know how many of you were part of the marches here. They were all over the world, every single continent. In fact, there were scientists marching in Antarctica. And in the U.S., they were the largest marches ever in the history of the United States of America. And the important thing to me about the marches were, one, it showed that women were resolute and resilient, and they have been ever since the inauguration. But also one of the things that I think is underreported is that how many men were there. There were fathers and sons and brothers and husbands who believe that women should have every opportunity and every right that men do. And to me, that's something we can't lose sight of, because this is going to take all of us together. And actually, I would say since the marches in the U.S., probably more than 4 million folks marched, no one quit, and particularly working in women's health. It has been, as you probably know, it's been a battle ever since to protect women's access to health care, but it has been phenomenal. There have been 3 efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which did so many great things for women, 3 attempts to defund Planned Parenthood, And right now, if you're scoring back at home, it is basically Mitch McConnell 0, women 3. We won every single one of those battles. And it was, and I guess I would say the resistance is being led by women. They estimate that maybe 86% of the phone calls coming into Congress that were objecting to these bills came from women, but we can't let up. And it is a very energizing time. We've never seen at Planned Parenthood more young people, women, men, standing up and taking action. But we're also going to lose some battles. And I do think it's important to recognize that even as we were talking back in the back, just as I was getting ready to come on here, the administration in the US has now basically repealed the birth control benefit that has 55 million plus women now enjoy, essentially saying that bosses could decide whether or not women get birth control in the US. And that's really something we have to fight. And so if I could give you one hashtag that I hope that is now trending worldwide, it's hands off my BC. If you can tweet something out, because the thing that is the irony of this, and then I'll close because I know we want to have a good discussion here, but we have done such good work in the US. We actually now are at a historic all-time low for teenage pregnancy in the United States of America. That's something that is, just extraordinary. Of course, it's still 5 times higher than France, but in any case, we're making progress. 30-year low for unintended pregnancy, the lowest rate of abortion since abortion was legalized in the United States. And so I feel like we have to really raise the alarm about how important preventive health care is for women.
Oh, that's actually extremely important, and these are figures that we hope that in the next administration they will take seriously. I also wanted to ask you, how many more volunteers have you gotten since the Trump election, and how much more money has poured in? Because I don't know about you, but all of my girlfriends, instead of giving ourselves, giving birthday presents or Christmas presents or anything, people were giving to the ACLU and Planned Parenthood. So this, at least there's a silver lining in that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it has been, we've gained more than 1 million new supporters in the US, tons of young people, something like 3 times the number of young people now giving monthly, instead of buying a latte, giving a contribution to Planned Parenthood, which really shows to me, again, it's not the volume of the contributions, it's the volume of the people. And I think one thing that is also underreported is the number of young women who are running for office in the United States of America. As I say, if we had more members of Congress who could get pregnant, we would quit fighting about birth control in the United States. So to see, I think Emily's list, which does a ton of training, has seen 18,000 women file to run for office in the United States. So the future is female. That's what I think. 18,000,
that's absolutely huge. So this is absolutely great news. So we are looking for silver linings, and with the kind of leadership of Cecile Richards, we certainly do. Well, what we'll do is we will pivot to the private sector for the moment. And Barbara, from your perspective at L'Oréal, what is the legacy that you can provide? What is the most important thing that you can do in terms of the company and as a woman to sort of continue the wonderful work that's being done with all the CEOs that have been present in the last 2 days? Because we have had discussions about that.
And you're right, we had during those 2 days some fantastic testimony and some CEOs really engage and commit in really bold targets. In terms of legacy, or as a leader and as a representative of the private sectors, what I want to say, and we heard a lot about it during those 2 days, is about this new leadership that today is rising, that today is arriving. I have a huge responsibility. I have 20,000 employees myself. I have 43 facilities, etc. And all my time, I'm asking what I can give in terms of legacy and what I can be in terms of leader. And one day, watching TV at Cannes 2014, I'm sure some of you remember that, Xavier Dolan was just receiving the award of the Cannes Festival. And he said a sentence that for me encapsulates really what a leader should say. He said, "Nothing is impossible for those who dream, dare, work hard, and never give up." And I think here everything is said, because I think that the leadership is changing in a very hard manner during the last period of time, during the last 5 years. And the Women's Forum, for me, highlights what we have heard during those 2 days, but also what we all wish is this new leadership. a leadership, and this is a legacy I want to leave with, is that dare, share, and care are the new attributes of success. And no more that leadership is about individualistic heroes, because before it was, the leadership, the leader, the winner, were the one having my results, my company, my performance. I think we are now, and I think that the world we have to build together is a world of It's a world of collaboration. It's a world of co-creation. It's a world of co-development. I mean, today, if there is a huge change, it is that you are no more performing, and your performance means nothing if it's not shared with someone, with your suppliers, within your supply chain, with your employees, with the planet, and that is the legacy I think we all have to hold on. And for private sectors, because government have moved and associations have moved, some fantastic bold person have moved. I think private sector has really, alongside government, alongside association, a key role to play here. And for me, in a sense, it becomes a duty. And I hope in this new world, and what we all have to work on now, it's a kind of license to operate for companies. Private sectors today need a license to operate, meanings on diversity, on sustainable development, but it's not wishful thinking. What I mean, measurable, with indicators. That should be the legacy that, the leaders of today must oblige CEOs and companies to establish.
That if all the companies could hear you
but I think
implement it, and I
we
think we're starting.
We're near to come to it,
I
really.
think we're getting faster than everyone thinks. Of course, the companies that we have heard from and the incredible commitment of the CEOs that we heard from this morning are showing us that they can lead the way, and we are getting there. So, thank you for L'Oréal. I have a question on the caring. What does caring mean to you within a company?
It's a very good question, because most of the people, when we do speak about care, they think about being nice, being empathic. It's not the meaning I put on it. Care is just when you are dealing with a company, a supplier, a client, when you are dealing with your employees, when you are dealing with your colleagues. It's just that you are taking something and you are giving something, and it's quite well balanced. What I mean is, I used to be chief purchasing officer, and just to give you an example, and at that moment of time, people wanted us to fight to get the best prices. The purpose of the job. And I explained to my boss, to my colleagues, and even to my purchaser, that the best supplier we will work with is the one making the more profit. Because if they are very profitable and, let's say, quite competitive, they are better than the other. So it's not philanthropy, because it's not long-lasting, it's not sustainable. If it's philanthropy, it's needed in some cases, but for business, it's not long-lasting. So care is really something about sharing the advantages at the end. It's not for myself, it's not for only my company. I strongly believe that care has something to do with a better balance on the added value, on the value creation, and not taking all the value for you. At the end of the day, I think acting in just taking the value for my company, my department, my government, my association, at the end of the day, that's not the right performance. That's no more the right performance. I think that today performance really that may create value for companies, that create value for the citizens, that create value for the planet, is really about this care.
And that, in a way, is encapsulated by the 3 Ps, which is people, planet, and profits. But it's people and planet as well.
Absolutely.
And the companies that
Absolutely.
put those 3 together will go farther, and they will be the sustainable, long-lasting companies.
And it's not in opposition with growth. It doesn't. Yeah. Many people oppose it to growth or to profit. It is the opposite. Just one short example, and I finish. I remember very well, we are, as a group, we are producing a lot of products, 7 billion a year, can you imagine? And we have decided to come to the planet to decrease our CO2 emission. And we decoupled our CO2 emission from the growth. We grew by 30%, 30, and our CO2 emission reduced by 67%. So what I mean, I can grow, and I can take care about the planet. I can take care about my entire supply chain. I can take care about my employee. It's no more time to opposite, and the new leaders, for me, are the ones that are able to conciliate those two elements.
Thank you. Well, we now pass to the man who makes us dream. And I was fortunate enough 4 years ago when you came to the Women's Forum in Deauville to present the Solar Pulse project, which I thought was so out of every box that everything that everyone had always told me, that you cannot have an airplane that does anything transatlantic or trans-Pacific or anything on solar energy. And here you were presenting it to a full house at Deauville. It was really spectacular. And this was before the project, right? Before you actually did it. Can you explain to those who are not as lucky as I was and some of us who heard the project, who saw that wonderful movie, what it is about and what you're trying to accomplish? Because this was the ultimate dare.
Well, on this day, 4 years ago, it was the ultimate dare from the Women Forum to invite me before I was successful.
We
because
believe
afterward, everybody invites me.
Ah.
But you took the risk when people were still making fun of me. When people were still saying that it was impossible to fly with an airplane of perpetual endurance with no fuel. You stay day and night in the air, and you fly around the world. And the only landings we made was to change the pilot, because there was only one seat, and my friend André Borschberg and I, we had to share the seat, so when we landed, it was just to change the pilot and then continue with the good weather conditions in front of us.
Well, we bet on you because we believed in you, because women at the Women's Forum do dare, and they know a good thing when they see it, right?
Absolutely.
So
but
I was worried that
you
you would not come back, actually, so I'm very happy to see you safe.
You're so kind. But you know, this experience completely changed my life. You have to imagine the situation. Alone in the cockpit of an airplane, in the middle of an ocean, flying several days and several nights in a row, without stop. And you watch the sun. You look on the left and on the right, you see 4 electrical motors turning with huge propellers, and you have no noise, you have no pollution, you have no fuel. Yeah. And you know you can fly theoretically forever. And then suddenly there's a part of you who's saying, wow, I'm already in the future. It's a film of science fiction. And not at all. Not at all. It's the present. It's what the technologies of today allowed to do today. And it's the rest of the world that is in the past.
All right.
And this changed my life completely. Because I saw that the rest of the world still has combustion engines, badly insulated houses, polluting systems, heating systems that are outdated, distribution of energy and grid that is completely from an old century.
Fossil fuels.
And you know, and all these solutions, like the one that makes Solar Impulse fly, can be implemented everywhere. And with the solutions that we have today for mobility, construction, and industry, we can already divide by 2 the energy consumption of the world. We can already divide by 2 the CO2 emissions. And at the same time, you create jobs, you make profit, you sustain growth. But you have a clean growth that is much better than the dirty status quo that we have today.
Wonderful. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have one last comment from all of you, and I am going to turn to our fearless leader here for the United States. Cécile, what is the plan?
I mean, I think the important thing, and I'm thrilled to be here with L'Oréal, because I do think that in areas where government is falling behind, and let's admit it, the U.S. is falling behind. In fact, it's one of the few developed countries where maternal mortality is on the rise. I think there is a real opportunity for business, and I'm grateful for companies like L'Oréal who understand that women are the future. They're the future of our economy. We are now half the workforce in the U.S. We're half the law students. We're half the medical students. But one of the single biggest reasons that prevents us from fully participating in the economy is because we don't have maternity benefits, we don't have childcare, we don't have a whole lot of things. And so it's very exciting to think that businesses are beginning to lead. And I hope that will help convince some politicians that women's health is not a social or political issue. It's a basic, fundamental economic issue. And the more that we allow women to be full members of our economies and our society, and I really want to shout out your president for here in France for making women half of the cabinet. If we did that more, things would really be in a different place. And so I think we are going to have to kind of leapfrog over some of our political institutions. And we at Planned Parenthood have been so excited to work with the fashion industry, with the tech industry, with a lot of folks who are really interested in empowering women and making sure that they are a huge part of driving their companies forward. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And are you planning to unveil some special way of working with the private sector? Because I think now, as many have said it, the private sector has to take the lead.
Absolutely.
I never would have thought I'd be saying that, but absolutely, in the United States, this is the only way to go.
No, and they are. I mean, we work a lot with the tech industry. We just did our first really successful app. It was rated by Apple as one of the best new apps in the App Store. It's called Spot On. It helps young women to basically track their period. It's a period tracker, been downloaded by more than 1 million young women already. That's one of the things that we can do. We're now selling birth control online. We just drop shipped off a float plane to a woman in an Arctic village her birth control, because she wasn't near a health center. We've booked more than 2.5 million appointments on mobile phones. That's where we can, idea of Planned Parenthood is take away barriers to information and healthcare access. And so this is where we have to be inventive. Why I love this example of a solar plane, because I do believe we can invent anything, and that to me that's the future. So it's a frustrating time politically. It's a very exciting time for women and to see the opportunities for young women.
Absolutely. I'm having visions of drones from Canada.
We're going to drop it everywhere.
Amazon
That's right. Absolutely.
Coming in
That's right.
and dropping birth control at people's doorsteps.
That's exactly
it's
right.
Coming.
It's coming. That's
it's
right.
Coming. We can overcome this. So Barbara, at L'Oréal, what are your next steps? How are you going to make the dream of the leadership dream come true? Are you going to start preaching around? You're going to get Michel Landel and a whole bunch of CEOs to go around the world and preach, this new CEO leadership with the caring as well as all the other parts of what you were saying.
Alors, next steps, more than next step, the next dream, because it's an endless story, the dream. So it's just the beginning of the journey, and I'm as ambitious as Cécile. We have all together to join to make it happen. If I may say, the next step, I think it's a call for action for all of us in the room, but also for all CEOs and the executive members of boards, if I may say. It's really to think about their duty and their responsibility and commitment about a snowball effect. I mean, that's really something you have to think about, because I'm representing the private sector tonight, and every company is proud to say, I've done this, I've done that, and already, I mean, they achieve some fantastic commitments. If we want to change the world, if we want to go as fast as the disrupted world, the only way is to enter now in a snowball system, in a snowball effect, meaning that I have the privilege to be in a big company, okay, a group like L'Oréal, but it is a privilege. Then my duty is to use this privilege to make it achievable and coming to the other company, meaning snowball effect within my supply chain. All my suppliers have thousands of suppliers to share with them what is environment, new technology, that because we have more money, we can already know and touch, to share with them about diversity, about inclusion. and also then to commit. If you want to be effective in your snowball effect, then you have to award more business to suppliers that are really committed to diversity, that are really committed to sustainable development, that are really committed to inclusion. So just to give you, so it's a call for action for every one of us, because we are doing things by our own. I think the only way to change the world is to make this snowball effect being effective. So today, we have decided 2 years ago now that we award business to companies on the same weight because of their competitive advantage and their CSR commitment. It's a huge, it's an unbelievable change. To make it happen at the same moment, you have to change the salary and the bonuses of your purchaser awarding business, okay? Because here again, you have to commit, you have to walk the talk, and we have done it just because then it's a snowball effect. What you're doing, what you have tested, learned, failed, etc., you can share already, but then to transform, you need real facts. So I think if today, the name of this session was the ultimate dare, I think the ultimate dare is really to enter in this snowball duty for at least my sector, which is private company.
That's fantastic, and I have to say we can't be remiss not to mention the Women for Science Awards that L'Oréal has been doing year after year, because that has been inspiring so many women in science.
So many young
scientists.
scientists.
The most emotional evening I attend every year, so thank you, L'Oréal, for that. Now, last but not least, Bertrand, what is this new project now that you are planning? Because you said that you're doing this, you're going to go around the world again, but you're going to be delivering different projects to different leaders, or what is this wonderful new thing that you're kicking off here?
Yeah, I think if you want to have an impact and if you want to succeed, you need to put the purpose first. And this is leadership. The management is when you tell people what to do. The leadership is when you explain people why to do it. And this is what is lacking today. Today, we look at the world and we describe all the problems. We make a list of problems that makes everybody depressive. We think the problems are too big and we don't know how to act. So I'm completely fed up of hearing about the problems of the environment and the climate change. I've decided to dedicate now the Solar Impulse Foundation to the demonstration of solutions. So we have created the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions to bring together the startups or companies or institutions who have an idea, a program, a process, a product, or a clean technology that can protect the environment in a profitable way. It needs to be profitable, because just fighting with a flag for nature has not worked for the last 50 years. You need to involve the industry, the economy, the finance, the political world, and give an advantage to everyone. It must be a win-win situation. And we will offer the expertise of these solutions, we'll offer the contact with investors, and the promotion. And what will be the promotion? The promotion will be another tour around the world with solutions and not with a solar-powered airplane, in order to bring the list of the 1,000 best solutions to all the heads of states, big corporations, or big institutions, and tell them, look, now you can base your energy and environmental policy on a reality, not on negotiations at minima between parties, but on the reality of what the technology offers today. And I believe it can make a huge difference.
Well, this sounds fantastic. So this is the Solar Pulse Solutions flight.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got it. So any companies, governments that are here, Bertrand is your man. Come and check on all the various startups. How many different solutions do you have as of now?
Today we have 400 members who are all startups or companies, but it's growing exponentially. And now it's the really interesting phase, because you learn everything that exists. Startups who develop new connectors for solar cells to put directly on the grid for 250 euros instead of 10,000 euros. You can store energy in heat. You have a new, yesterday, I was in Bordeaux with the Vice President of the European Commission, and there was a startup who was presented who invented and patented a system of solar panels that produce electricity and heat. So it's not anymore the choice between photovoltaic and thermal. They do both. And I thought, why did he have this idea and not me? You know, I was thinking, that's so fantastic. That's so obvious. But he was the first one to think about it. And every day we receive new solutions. And for the team of the Solar Impulse Foundation, it's fantastic because it really gives hope to see the creativity of people who know that they can change the world solution after solution. So imagine when we have 1,000 solutions, it will be fantastic.
Absolutely. And how many women of these startups? How many? So how?
I don't know
tell us
how
about
many.
your team and how many of the women? How many women are in these startup solutions?
For the startup solutions, we have not yet made the statistic. In the team of the Solar Impulse Foundation, 2/3 are females.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So,
It makes a good counterbalance from the world of engineering, because when we're flying around the world, the engineers were in big majority males. And it was also a call to all the females, please study engineering, become engineers, because we need this sensitivity of women into the world of engineering. But in communication and in what we do, even now the physicist who is working on doing all the selection of the solutions, she's a woman. So I feel really well here.
okay, that's great. Cecile.
Can I make a last plea?
Absolutely.
Are we going to get to do one?
Yeah, we are
Okay.
going to get, I was just going to turn to you to do a last plea.
Okay, I mean, it's the thread of everything and everything I've heard these last couple of days, and that is we just need to invest in a new generation of women and women leaders, and they're everywhere, and they're here, and they're in the U.S., and I think that's where, because I know you said before we came out we couldn't be depressing, so I haven't
Trying
told you a
not
lot
to
of
be,
things I could have told you, but I do think to me the most uplifting thing has been to see the number of young women who are involved, who are literally taking sort of their own futures into their own hands, that businesses are investing in, they're running for office. And I was thinking as we were sitting here about just casting back again on the Women's March, my favorite, there were many awesome signs and kind of inspiring signs, but my favorite sign was of a man who was marching with a sign that said, "I'm so honored to be marching with the future President of the United States today. I don't know who she is, but I know she's here with me." And that's, for those of us who had hoped we might see a woman president sooner than we have, that's what keeps us going. So invest in young women.
Well, that, I think, for engaging for impact is what this is all about. So we hope that the young women here are listening, because this is very, very important. Your futures are at stake. Baba, last exhortation.
Just be bold and act and action, make just actions that are measurable in absolute value. So it's not very poetic, but at the end of the day, do it efficiently. So act something that can be measured. That is exactly the definition of impact.
And yes, applause for that. And for what I would call the Elon Musk of the sky, what would you? What is your last exhortation to this crowd as they go off to the mairie to drink?
We have to understand that when we do something, our first action is the result of our past. It's the result of what we have learned. It's the result of what we have believed, which means that we are prisoner of our certainties, our beliefs, our convictions. So when we want to act, let's be very careful that we are not just reproducing something from the past. We have to make a rupture with the past. We have to be pioneers. We have to be explorers. And what is the pioneer or the explorer? It's the one who thinks and acts out of the certitudes and the habits. It's the one who is honest enough to understand what he believes and try something else. And creativity is about that. You know, innovation is not a new idea that you have. Innovation is an old belief that you leave behind. And then you are free in your head, free in your mind, free in your heart to invent something new. And then your action will really come from your creativity. And like this, you can introduce a change in the world.
Well, I would say that's a beautiful way to end. I have one beautiful quote to add to that, because it's hard to add to that. But it's a quote from Astro Teller, who is in Berkeley, is an innovator. And leaps of innovation require a bravery that borders on absurdity. And I think that's what we need to go. We need to go where no one else has gone and tread. And this is where we hope all of you will leave this room and go and break barriers, get engaged, and dare. So thank you all for staying all this evening. Thank you very much, Cécile, Barbara.
And thank you to you.
So, we all are exhausted, full of joy, full of energy, but exhausted. So I just want to do one last thing. Everything has happened today thanks to Chiara Corazza. Chiara, can you come on? Thanks to Sophie Lambert, who has done the program. And please raise, because they are at the team. So can the team join? All the teams join. They have done an amazing job, and really, we owe them so much. So please, can all the team come here? And thank you. We'll have an event in Mexico, 7 and 8 of November. We'll have 8 and 9 of November. I've always been making mistake with dates. We'll have an event in May in Canada, in Toronto. We'll have another event in September in Singapore. And we give you rendezvous next time here in Paris, 15 and 16 of November. You know, she knows everything, and I'm just repeating. So, so Anne-Gabrielle will be there at the dinner. You know, we'll be the three of us, and really thank you for your presence. Thank you for all what you're doing, and we'll continue. We'll build daring circle. We'll continue to dare to act, and we'll do that with you. Thank you. And there are buses going to the Hôtel de Ville, and now you can applaud. Bye bye.